Welcome to the Great Indian Points and Miles Show. Italy is a country that is about history, culture, food, landscapes, so many activities. But it's also about figuring out, if you're a points and miles geek, what route should I take? What kind of redemptions should I eye? What kind of flights do I potentially think about transferring my miles and points to?
Italy, both Rome and Milan, are not well connected to India. If you compare it to, let's say, a Paris or a Germany, it was one of the most inefficient redemptions that I ever done. I want to tell everybody who feels shitty about doing a bad redemption, it's okay. Everybody goes through that. The value that you spend with your family is more important.
Lufthansa has a 747 that flies to Bangalore. Well, it's a very old aircraft, but it's also iconic, right? It's one of those experiences that you'll cherish because Munich airport, you don't board like everybody. There is a special black car that will take you from the tarmac straight to the plane, and just you, and you'll board whenever you want.
When we were going to Rome, we were least excited about what miles we are booking with. I'm being honest, right? We generally geek about it, but that was like, here, Italy jana hai. But one efficient way of doing could be, if you just land in Paris, just take a train. Within Europe, that's the beauty of it.
What if one doesn't have points? How would you think about it then? If you don't have points and you don't have to look at the Accor ecosystem, what would you ideally do?
So you can do things like Smart Buy, definitely. The 10x on points that you on hotels that you get on Smart Buy is great. Something like an Atlas can also work out well. Book revenue, it's okay.
We hogged on pastas, croissants, gelatos. This is all the thing we don't eat in India. Just before we start on pastas, let me tell you, I did not gain a single gram of weight after coming 14 days from Italy and hogging every day. He was telling me there's a concept called dolce far niente in Italy, which is saying the art of doing nothing. It's an art. And one interesting fact is we went to see the Leaning Tower of Pisa after both the wine tours, and everything was anyways leaning. The most underwhelming things in Italy were the things which we were most excited about. Leaning Tower of Pisa was one of them.
Lights flashing bright, we're on the go. Tune in now, there's so much to know. Earning bits, travel dreams we sow. All aboard the Great Indian Points and Miles Show. Zero to hero in the blink of an eye. Fly first class, no need to be shy. Redemption sweet, touching the sky. Award seats booked, let's give it a try. Award seats booked, let the points flow. It's all aboard the Great Indian Points and Miles Show. Unlocking journeys wherever you go. The sky's the limit, feel the travel mojo.
Welcome to the Great Indian Points and Miles Show. This is your host Adil Bandukwala and your resident Points and Miles geek. Today we're doing an episode about a destination that has captured the imagination of people for over a century. The destination we're talking about is Italy. It's not just the romance of the Colosseum or taking those gondola rides in Venice, or potentially going there in Rome and admiring the architecture. It's much more beyond that, because we're going to talk about how you can make the most out of your destination, out of your travels, also do the same on Points and Miles. And we've got two exciting guests for you on the show. First up, we've got Dhimant. Dhimant, has been on many of our episodes. He's the co-founder of Points and Miles shows. But other than gazing at planes, he also enjoys gazing at stars. He has a telescope at home, and then he does stargazing, and then he also enjoys looking at planes and flying in them. Speaking of stars, he's also a Bollywood buff. तो अगर कभी बॉलीवुड पिक्चर बनेगी पॉइंट्स और माइल्स में, धीमंत का एक रोल तो पक्का होगा. And with that, welcome Dhimant to the Points and Miles show.
Thank you.
We also have Ameya. Ameya, again, is the co-founder of the Great Indian Points and Miles show. Fun fact about Ameya, ये बंदा फुटबॉल मैच देखने के लिए एक फ्लाइट लेके जा सकता है. He will use and burn his miles just to watch that great game of football. And with that, thanks Ameya, and welcome to the Great Indian Points and Miles show. शुरू करते हैं. Italy is a country that is about history, culture, food, landscapes, so many activities. But it's also about figuring out, if you're a points and miles geek, what route should I take? What kind of redemptions should I eye? What kind of flights do I potentially think about transferring my miles and points to? It's also about कौन से cards में मैं points earn करूं, कौन से points मैं कहां transfer करूं, and then we'll build like the perfect itinerary. We're going to talk about all of this. And with that, to get started, let's just get into the thick of things and get into flights. Dhimant and Ameya, both of you have been to Italy before. Dhimant, जब आप गए थे, where did you go to? What was your itinerary? What flights did you take? Did you book revenue? Did you book via points? Let's break it down.
Sure. I think first of all, just covering a little bit about why we wanted to do Italy in the month that we did, right? So we did Italy in October, right? And I think for the longest period of time, we always heard about the Italian summer or the European summer, right? If you see a lot of Instagram content, you will always see people talking about spending summers in Italy, right? And that is the time we knew this is the time we don't want to go, right? We prefer shoulder seasons, and specifically October is a very good shoulder season, right? So that's where we started the journey. Once we locked into that time period, right, where, because we are from a tropical country, right, so we don't always appreciate summers that much, right, but we do appreciate better weather, being able to do a lot of things in slightly better weather, all of that, right? So that's where we started our journey. Now, when we started Googling Italy, right, and I think the first thing that we saw was like everywhere we could see the same itinerary, right? Rome जाओ, Rome में 4 historic चीजें देखो, एक museum देखो, then you go to Milan, then you see the beautiful city, modern city, then you go to Venice, you take a gondola ride, and it's a like beautiful city, and like that's all we saw, right? And then the other extreme is Instagram reels, right? Because we're searching Italy, it kept throwing same thing, showing the Trevi fountain, for example, right? And I just wanted to add here like the fact that when we landed there, the most disappointing things, what we saw on Google and what we saw on Instagram, right? And the things we liked the most were the things which were completely unexplored, right? And this is something which we didn't expect, honestly. Like we were actually worried that we may end up doing some random things and they may not be great, right? So that's where the second thought was like, how should the itinerary be planned? And then third is tickets milega, nahi milega, right? And then we looked at a few options. I ended up taking Flying Blue. This was the first flight I actually took on Flying Blue as a program, right? Transferred everything that I had in all the programs into that one currency, Flying Blue, right? And it was one of the most inefficient redemptions that I ever done. I want to tell everybody who feels shitty about doing a bad redemption, it's okay. Everybody goes through that. The value that you spend with your family is more important, right? And I did a shitty redemption, right? But and it was one of the good redemptions in terms of enjoying the place. So I took a Bangalore to Amsterdam, Amsterdam to Rome. That was on KLM, again via Flying Blue as a partner. And by return we took Milan to Paris, and Paris back to Bangalore. Right, that's the itinerary we took. The reason being, we didn't want to go to Delhi and Bombay and taking flights because our family preferred that way. We wanted to stop somewhere in between and then take a flight, right? So that was our thought. So that's the flight we took.
So thanks for sharing that. You spoke about a very interesting angle. You feel that you did a bad redemption. For our points and miles geeks who are listening, I think it's very important to tell everyone ki boss, everybody has had bad redemptions. Okay. Like for example, all of us who start, right? We all start with weird redemptions. Like my story is, I thought a few years back, I had accumulated 50,000 points in Amex. And I was like, I saw somewhere that I can redeem them for 25 paisa cash, meaning I'll get statement credit. I was like, 12,500 rupees statement credit. Maza hi aa jayega. I thought I'd kicked ass. I was a rock star saying that मैं घर पे आके बोला 12,500 रुपए free, thanks to credit cards. Felt like a rock star. Now I'm like, what a bozo, right? तो ये सबके साथ होता है. It's part of your journey when you're starting your whole miles and points play. I mean, I think you were also saying you have a fun burn redemption story where back in the day you used it for a very unique experience. Tell us about it.
Yeah, so I guess this was my first ever credit card redemption many years ago. Going to go home before a Diwali break, and I'm like, okay, I'm going to get some clothes and stuff for everyone and take it back. And I go to the counter. This was one of the ICICI cards that I had at that point of time. And the lady is like, hey, you have these payback points. Do you want to use them?
Which store was this?
It's one of those.
Some clothing store.
Payback was ICICI ecosystem. I remember.
No, but
Their rewards used to come in payback points.
Correct.
Haan.
So this was one of the brand factories. I don't know if it still exists.
Yes.
You remember the factory outlets?
Martha Road
Yeah,
pe tha wo, yes.
Correct. So I'm like, yeah, sure. Why don't you please use it? And I didn't have to pay a single rupee. And I was like, wow.
Phod diya.
I've also done my fair share of horrible ones. Like I remember I've spent high amount of money on this Vistara cash plus miles. And yeah, I mean, 25 paise value or something like that. It's like...
But this is very interesting, right? Because this brings me to that dream of going to Italy. And I'll tell you what happened, right? So I started investing in the diners and HDFC ecosystem 2016 when the 10x came.
Yeah.
And I was collecting point. It has become a nasha, right? Ki chahiye 1 lakh jama ho gaya, 1.5 lakh jama ho gaya. And I was not in the earn and burn game that point of time. My wife had a very, difficult job where she can't really come 3-4 vacations a year. So we would literally plan 1 vacation in 3 years at that point of time. And मेरा था कि like जमा करेंगे और फिर एक मस्त trip करेंगे. 6 lakhs is what I hit on HDFC ecosystem, right? And this is 2020 March. We're planning, COVID hits, and points are expiring in December 2020.
Damn.
I ended up buying the entire Apple ecosystem with that 6 lakhs points. Bought an Apple iPad, bought an Apple MacBook. Again, value dekhoge to very pathetic redemption. Could have got me much better. But again, those devices are still with me. I'm happy. It's given me what I needed at that point of time. So yeah.
Which brings us, right? No redemption is a bad redemption. Right? You all start. And the philosophy is earn and burn always. अगर कुछ अच्छा मिल रहा है, ले लो. नहीं तो devalue हो जाएगा या change हो जाएगा. Then you will get something that you will potentially regret. But I think like everybody starts by kind of making a mistake. But unless you don't screw up, how will you learn what redemption is a good redemption, right? So I think ये तो करना ही चाहिए. But thanks for sharing that perspective, Dhimant. You on your first trip to Italy leveraged the Air France ecosystem and you gave in the details. Great. Ameya, you've been to Italy too. What did you leverage back in the day? And I also know that you're planning a trip to Italy soon. So I want to know what airlines are you considering? What options there could be? Economy mein, business mein, first mein. What kind of mix can people look at if they were planning like you? What are the options if you can lay the groundwork for us?
Sure. So I've been there twice. The first time I flew, we used Lufthansa, straight revenue, but that is because they had an insane deal on this multi-city kind of a route, right? So, A to B and then C to D kind of a route. So I think that worked out quite well for us. The most recent trip, I largely used my diners points, right? So this was through Air France. So I think similar to what you took, except I think mine was, I think inbound into Amsterdam and into Rome, and outbound was via Paris, right? So, and that is the thing with Italy, right? Which is to say that for as great a destination and as popular a destination it is, there's a big dearth when it comes to direct connectivity. Like if you look at the landscape today, like as far as I understand, from Delhi you have an Air India that flies directly only into Milan. It doesn't go into Rome. Milan is a bigger airport amongst the two. Then there is an Alitalia flight, again only from Delhi. And this goes, there's a flight to either of your Rome as well as to Milan. There's also this interesting one that has come up in the past year. There is this low-cost carrier called Neos. Now, these people, they fly only out of Amritsar. And they have flights to both Rome, Milan, as well as one of the cities in central Italy called Verona.
Yeah.
So it's an option. But essentially what all of this boils down to is that, so I'm big on direct flights, right? I don't like to do transfers when I can help it. But in India, unless you are in Delhi or in and about there, you are pretty much hamstrung. So what this also opens up for all of us is that there are, so you are forced to take another stop. And now that possibility itself opens up a lot more options with respect to saying that, okay, you can do, hop at where do you want to take the hop from and use that as an extra destination and whatnot. So we can get into some of these details.
I think just to add to this, right, let's put it in black and white. Italy, both Rome and Milan are not well connected to India. If you compare it to, let's say, a Paris or a Germany kind of cities, right? Munich or something. Surprising, I don't know why. Because the amount of people who want to go to Italy is significantly increasing year on year, right? And that's why the reason why we're doing this podcast as well. That's one. I think the second thing is, if you, like Amaya said, the only city today which is directly connected in a continuous, consistent way is Delhi.
Amritsar.
And Amritsar maybe. But again, if you want to fly on miles, obviously Delhi, is Neos also flying by
Neos, you
miles?
don't have miles. So let's talk about it. Right? So the Delhi flight, which is the Air India. Air India, you can anyway get with Air India. I believe it is 36,000 plus taxes. I think the sweet spot over here is Aeroplan. So you can fly the same Air India flight using Aeroplan. And if I remembered correctly, it was like 20-something thousand points. So pretty good redemption over there.
No, but here is where that's why I said, right? Because after I knew this option, I felt really shitty about the redemption that I did, right? So Flying Blue, let's cover that also, because it's actually a very efficient route to go to Rome because it's well connected. Timings are good, and it's KLM and Air France together make a good combo. I paid 83,000 miles for Bangalore to Rome, right? So via KLM. One way.
Okay.
83,000 miles. Right? So that's expensive like shit, right? And hence my point was that while I got 1 rupee value from a revenue to miles perspective, I could have done it for 1/3 of it.
Yeah, in fact, there's a few options that you get. So the other one, right? So the Alitalia flights which are there, historically at least you could redeem it on Virgin. And Virgin had something like, if I remember correctly, 60,000 one-way business class or something like that, which is quite good. Alitalia, however, very recently in the last couple of days, they've had a major stake buy from Lufthansa. So hopefully they will get into Star Alliance, and if it does, then that might open up more possibilities. I'm not seeing too many award seats right now, but Virgin to Alitalia was the other one. They also have their own loyalty program. That's a little interesting, right? So, by the way, so they have Accor as a transfer partner.
Volare, I think, is the name of the partner.
Volare is this thing. And you can transfer from Accor to 5-4 ratio. Essentially, 4 Accor points gives you 5 Volare points, but they have a fixed value of something like 0.5 cent. So value is not great, but what you can potentially use this for is like if you have a lot of spare Accor points that for whatever reason you're not able to use. I can't think of that situation, but you can do like a cash plus miles thing, and you can pick how much you want to redeem with miles, how much you want to redeem with cash. Neos, there is no way out. It's low cost directly. You just book.
I think if you ask me, if I have to summarize this well, the best way I feel is enter into any mainstream Europe airport from India, because they are well connected with Bangalore. You will find any Lufthansa भी हो सकता है, Air France भी हो सकता है. Just reach there, and then the connectivity is great.
So
almost
Europe
everything
or Middle East,
Middle East भी कर सकते हो, yeah, Doha कर सकते हो, yeah, you can do.
Let's talk about some
Dubai.
of these, right? So I think there's some very nice options that do open up with this as well, which is, for example, so I think the cheapest one from a miles perspective is again Virgin. So the Air France flights that you took, you can get it on Virgin for 15,000 plus. There's a little bit of tax. It's not a big amount, but it's like 15,000 miles one way for economy. Business is a little higher. So I think that is probably the best redemption. Virgin, you can also do, they have another redemption that goes through one of the Middle East countries. I think it's probably Oman or something like that. I don't remember. It's Saudi, Saudi, I think you can do with Virgin. And then apart from that, then you get into the One World ones, wherein you can do, I think One World, the best redemption, and this is the other really nice sweet spot, is JAL. So Qatar Airways via JAL, you get it at 45, 46,000, 47,000 round trip on economy, and business round trip comes to 85,000 miles.
Correct.
So it's a crazy good redemption.
Yeah.
The other One Worlds, you don't get so much great value. Like, for example, you can do Cathay Pacific is a sweet spot here, 27,000 miles. But taxes is a little high. Taxes comes to about 10,000, 12,000 for one way, which is still a very decent redemption. Like, whatever, Bangalore, Qatar to Rome or to Milan. So, and also the fact that you are taking a stopover, it increases the flexibility with respect to where you want to go. Like, for example, in the direct ones, as I mentioned, Air India flies only to Milan. You can take the Alitalia to Rome if possible. But here now your options open up. There's also the Middle Eastern airlines, right? Etihad has a great redemption, like something like 27,000 points plus, whatever taxes a little higher. You get a good redemption on Etihad. The other option that one can also do is, do part revenue and part in redemption. So, for example, from a lot of Middle Eastern carriers, you can get, one-way, reasonably cheap, one-way fares on revenue. That is one. You can also do Star Alliance, the thing that you alluded to, that go to any European city, right? So, like the Virgin and whatnot, you eventually take the Air France or, KLM ones. Star Alliance, you can probably go to something like a Munich and then Munich into Italy, which is one of the ones I've taken. Redemptions are a little steep on that, but it's doable. Yeah. It's doable.
I want to call out one more. So Munich, I think, is very interesting for those of our listeners who actually want to. Now, they have a Lufthansa has a 747 that flies to Bangalore. But it's a very old aircraft, but it's also iconic, right? Because you want to experience like the upper deck. Now, I have a hunch they'll retire it soon. So for those of you who want to fly Lufthansa first, back in the days, like 3 months back, it used to be available 71,500 United, right? But now I think the value is doubled to maybe around 130K United. It's still great. But it's one of those experiences that you'll cherish because Munich airport, you don't board like everybody boards the aircraft. There is a special Mercedes, a black car that will take you from the tarmac straight to the plane, and just you. And you will board whenever you want. Like you want to board last, sure. You want to board in between, sure. You want to board the start, sure. It's up to you. They have a private first lounge and they have this experience that can be redeemed. So it's one of those iconic experiences. But if you're sitting on a ton of United, this one could be very cool. There's another one. Like for example, when I went to Italy, this was 2019. We did 4 countries together back in the day. It was me and my wife. It was Switzerland, Italy, France, and Netherlands.
Exactly.
So now when we did these 4 countries, we landed into Paris. My redemption was straight up Jet Airways. Jet Airways revenue. But luckily I had 1 lakh diners points, and that time Smart Buy didn't have the 30% cap. Redeemed all like 90K, 45K per person round trip into 2.
This was the plan which I wanted, which I had accumulated the points for.
Yeah.
I actually ended up doing this. The last time I flew, I essentially did this.
But it gets better or it gets worse. Let me tell you why. So Jet Airways we took. That was the last flight that took out of India. 2019. We were on that flight, we took off, we land in Paris, and then 24 hours later, we hear that Jet Airways has gone kaput. Our return was on Jet Airways.
Oh my God.
Now we're screwed. We didn't get that money back, so that money went bust. Luckily, by God's grace, again had diners points remaining. Booked an Air India for my return. Awesome. That's how we solved that problem.
So now that you mentioned this, I had a eerily similar experience with this. So this was 2020, just before COVID, right? And so 2019 and 2020 start. We were supposed to fly out of Paris, and those guys started rioting. There's no way for us to get into Paris. Like, what do? We ended up staying extra time in Milan. We had a train from Milan to Paris. So we ended up staying extra time in Milan. And I said, okay, you know what? People might be rioting in the city. Airport pe koi nahi aayega. So diners points, book hotel. Diners points, book flight from Milan into Paris. Thankfully, eventually with insurance, I was able to cover things.
That reminds me of one very important thing, right? I mean, if you are in Europe, you still want to go to Rome, you want to go to Milan, you want to do all this crazy shit. So I'll tell you honest, right? When we were going to Rome, we were least excited about what miles we are booking with. Yeah. I'm being honest, right? I mean, we generally geek about it, but that was like, here, Italy jana hai. That was the intent. Yeah. And it was a dynamic program. We booked whatever we got, but one efficient way of doing could be if you just land in Paris, just take a train. I mean, within Europe, that's the beauty of it.
I'll come to that. So when we were there, so when we did one of these 4 countries, I don't remember the exact order, but we went to Amsterdam, we went to Venice, we went to Genoa, we went to Zurich, and Paris. These were largely the places that we went. From one of these places, we came into Italy. So that time it was, hardcore economy, and we want to make it very, very, very points first, meaning no cash expenses, right? So we took a bus. There's a very interesting brand called Flixbus, which has now come to India also. And Flixbus at that time had this gorgeous double-decker bus, which was a double-decker bus. You get like on the top level, the first front 2 seats, which got great access to the highways, beautiful drive, 8-hour drive,
nice.
$2,000 per seat. Awesome. That's amazing, right? You're getting from one country to the other country. You're paying $2,000 in an air-conditioned vehicle which had a bathroom inside as well. So it was a fantastic experience.
Awesome.
I'm sure that exists today also. So for those of you, it's not just about flights, right? I mean, you can optimize your journeys just by
Trains,
taking
yeah.
buses or
Bus
trains, like
trains, yeah.
Deeman said,
Yeah.
wherever needed.
But now that you talk of experiences, one also underrated way of getting in is you can get in from Turkey. Right? So Turkey allows you an e-visa if you hold a Schengen or a US visa, and also single
UK visa as well.
UK, bunch of countries. So what you can do, a couple of things. Right? One is straight off take Turkish Airlines into Istanbul, spend some time there. I think it's 20K or something redemption. Great redemption. Business will get in 35.
That's via Turkish.
Via Turkish.
Okay.
Right? And from Turkey, you can get into Italy. That is one thing. You can also do potentially United excursion. It doesn't work out as cheap anymore. But that's an option that you have for sure. And Turkey experiences are like nice.
I think this is what I wanted to cover in this section, right? Because the thing is that, okay, there was a time when I did a bad redemption, but I want to just leave it saying, okay, there are hundreds of ways of getting in.
Yeah.
Like, let that not be the barrier for you to visit Italy.
Absolutely.
I mean, that's what I feel. Like, just don't make it a barrier to think about it. I mean, the connectivity from India directly is poor, but that is not a reason for you to not visit Italy.
Absolutely. This is a great summary. This is a great summary of getting in, getting out, flights, buses, trains, points, miles, cash. We covered it. इसके आगे बढ़ते हैं. But आगे बढ़ने से पहले, अगर किसी को points कमाने हैं to solve for this, how would they optimize it? What are your recommended cards this year for someone who's traveling? The one thing I want to clear, and I think we should call it out to people, is that if you want to plan a trip this year to Italy, I'd say go revenue. Don't try and earn 100%. Miles. It's going to be hard. Earning miles takes time. एक साल का मेहनत है, ठीक है? So go slow on it. But if you're planning, let's say next year, so what can you do this year? Where will you spend your money? What cards will you optimize for? Come to you, Deeman, first, and then we'll go to Amya. So Deeman, what would be your top card recommendations for those who want to do their dream Italy itinerary?
So if you want to do the Italy trip on points only, and next year, let's say, like you correctly said, इस साल करना है तो revenue पे करो. Don't worry, go. Don't put your plans for next year. Next year और कोई destination कर लेना. Like if you do want to do it only on miles, then I would say get one of the HDFC cards. If you can get the Diners Black or the Infinia, that's the best option. Spend on the bonus and maximize the bonus every month. I think that's the first suggestion, because that's a really good way of earning a quantum of miles.
Correct.
Right. Second is go into the Access ecosystem, get an Atlas, and collect with Atlas and maybe also, if possible, a Magnus Burgundy. If cannot, then probably a normal Magnus. If both are not possible, just get the Atlas. Right. Atlas may try to hit 7.5 lakh spend if you can. That will maximize you to a certain extent with the bonuses and 4% return. Also, this year's travel that you do on revenue, do it on Atlas. So that will also give you the accelerated rewards. Maximize that. Third, get the Amex Platinum travel. Spend 4 lakhs, just 4 lakhs on that card. Get 48,000. Now, between these three, whatever you earn, I feel it will be good enough for you to do a trip next year. I'm sure other things will also come in, but this should be an essential guide in my head.
So your top cards, Deeman, summarizing Infinia. Infinia, because you're saying that sweet spots are there particularly for hotels or for gift vouchers.
Correct.
Hotels pe 10x hai, which is beautiful.
Correct.
So for example, if 1 month you book 45,000 rupees on hotels, 15,000 आपको आ जाता है. 15,000 is your monthly limit, right? So if you need accommodation worth 90K, split it into 2 months, 30,000 आपका वापस आ गया. That's one stash that you have. Pivot to American Express Platinum Travel, that's number 2, because you'll get 50,000 odd change points on spending 4 lakh rupees. This is your second stash. Third stash, if you have more spending, go ahead, maximize Atlas. Atlas में 15 लाख तक आप कर सकते हो. उसके बाद diminishing returns है, but go all out up to 15 lakhs. With these 3 programs, you'll have great.
Good enough.
Good enough.
You can move points to Bonvoy, you can move points to Accor, you can move points to Lufthansa, you can move points to Flying Blue. Flying Blue is also 1:1 for SDFC.
और Flying Blue Group B है मेरे हिसाब से, right? That's another advantage. Because Accor में if you are planning accommodation, so you'll hit Group A limits in Atlas. So you use Group B and that will be helpful.
But one thing I'll call out, Flying Blue has increased their redemption costs very recently.
Also, the problem is a dynamic program. So if you plan early, you get really sweet spots. If you plan late, But again, I would say if you are somebody who is planning late, it could be helpful.
Yeah. Cool. Amya, आपके पास आते हैं. What would be your top 3-4 cards? Are they similar to Dhimant? Are they different?
Sort of similar, sort of different. So look, I think I'll go program wise, right? So you want to hit Aeroplan if you are flying on Star Airlines. I think that's the best way to go about it. Aeroplan through Axis is the right way to go. So get an Axis Atlas and you can use it to transfer to Aeroplan. If not Aeroplan, what you can also do with your Axis points is you can go with Japan Airlines, JAL, and you'll get great redemptions on that front. So I think these are probably the two best ways of going about this.
So you're saying Magnus Burgundy plus Atlas. Those are your top two.
If not for this, you can also go down the Amex table and you can transfer from Amex directly into Virgin. And this you can use to redeem like either the Air France or the Saudi kind of flights. This is probably the cheapest redemption, but availability can be so-so. So maybe in the peak season, not so much. Shoulder season, you should be able to get something.
Again, for those who are kind of tuning into the show the first time, when you started the episode, you spoke about shoulder season and you spoke about shoulder season now again. Can we explain to our viewers what is shoulder season? Let's just dumb it down to the core.
Sure. I think I'll give my perspective. If he has a different perspective, you can add on to it. I think the way I look at shoulder season, and again, I don't know that technical definition. I only know that anything where there is a peak season where people are rushing there because let's talk about Japan, for example. Right? Japan, where there are two peak seasons. There is the cherry blossom and there's the autumn. Right? Uske alawa, December is not
cherry blossom or sakura is March, April.
Perfect.
The second
autumn
one
is October end to November end to maybe a little bit into December.
Got it.
After that, December end is also a pleasant period because of Christmas celebrations. And December, Jan, किसी के लिए भी shoulder नहीं होता. Most of the cases, right? So anything apart from this, you would generally call the shoulder season.
So shoulder season can also be in air mile terms called off peak.
Off peak, absolutely. Yeah. Off peak, absolutely. And also the occupancies on the flights will be lower, rates will be hence better. All of those will kick in by default. Hotel rates should be almost.
Weather might be bad. It's like raining and whatnot.
It depends. I mean, it could be a scenario where the weather may not be optimal for you, but
for
still.
Right. I mean, I love traveling in winters. And a lot of people are more like, especially more in the West, that summers and the July, August summers that they have there become the.
For me, it is always about beating the crowd.
Right.
Like that's
basically that. Same here.
Cool. So summarizing, I think Amya, like you said, your top cards would be Magnus Burgundy, it would be Atlas, so the two core Axis cards, and then you'll have the Amex Platinum Travel as well. Those kind of round up your top three.
Right.
But I want to add one thing here because he mentioned the Atlas, right? Let's stick to the idea of Italy, right? Knowing the itinerary that we'll talk about a little bit in more detail, you're not going to be able to maximize miles and points everywhere.
Agreed.
Extremely important to carry the right points. So wherever you don't use miles, you're able to get the best out of what you spend as well, right? So we'll talk about it, right?
Yeah,
so,
and in this sense, something like, for example, the HDFC cards, the value of those cards increases that much more because you're able to do redemptions with the Smart Buy points.
Cool. So flights are done, cards are done, earning is done, burning is done. Now let's get into the heart of it. Dhimant, when you went there, in Italy there's so much to do. There is Florence, there's Milan, there's Cinque Terre, there's Rome. There are so many things to do in Italy. Talk us through your itinerary when you went.
Sure.
How did you craft it? What all did you do? Why did you do? And what people should do? And what you wish you couldn't do?
Perfect. I think this is the most exciting part, honestly. Let me throw some light on this, right? It took us almost 20-25 days and a discussion between me and my wife to come with the perfect itinerary. Reason being that there's just too much to do, right? So you covered few. Let me also add a few, right? Let's go hotspot by hotspot, as we call it, right? There's a Naples region, right? The Naples region is essentially slightly south side. You have Naples as a major place where, a lot of foodies would love that place. Naples is crazy for food. The best pizza, the Michel pizza, I think is famous from Naples. And, that's something that any foodie would want to go there. The second hotspot is Florence. Florence has got historic importance. Also, it lies in the heart of the Tuscany region, right? And hence, if you ever heard about Tuscany, the rolling hills of Tuscany, it's beautiful, right? So you're covering a historic city along with that beautiful part of the country, right? Then you have the historical capital of Rome, right? Rome is all about old Roman history, wars, all even the older wars, right? Not really the world wars and all, but the older Roman stories, right? So that's all about it. Then you have the fashion capital of the world, which is Milan, right? And who can not know that, right? I mean, Milan is known for, you walk in Milan and you'll realize you're in a different world altogether. There are the new hotspots that have come in, right? So there is something called Cinque Terre, which you spoke about, right? Now it's become it's basically a small set of islands, 5 small islands, which, have mountains and water, and it's a very beautiful place.
Extremely picturesque.
Extremely picturesque, right? When you see those pictures, you'll realize, this town actually looks like that.
You can just walk up the terrain or down the terrain. So it's beautiful.
Exactly. So, okay. If you go in the shoulder season, that's a disadvantage. You cannot do the 5 hikes, right? Otherwise, you can cover the entire Cinque Terre on a hike.
Correct.
Right? So that's why people go there in summers. Then there is Venice, which is the hotspot, right? Venice is the whole canal system, and how you see in multiple movies. Like I told you, I'm Bollywood buff. Like India, say it's always been aspirational, like Venice jao. And so that's the Venice hotspot. And then there are Capri, right, which is again south side. And then you must have heard about Positano, right? You see this new Instagram reels coming in where people are driving the scooter over the Positano hills. And the last part is Sicily, right? So Sicily is another area of Italy, which is like slightly outside island. But again, a lot of people go there. And, this is the entire hotspot areas you talk about in Italy.
Sicily में आज भी dons है क्या? Like they show in the US.
Don को पकड़ना मुश्किल नहीं था.
Yeah, Sicily, I think it's largely removed. By the way, there's a lot of these kind of instances in Sardinia, which is the other island of.
Yeah.
But yeah, Sicily nowadays, it's like pretty much.
No, but Sicily, on a positive note, Sicily has got this beautiful. It's now a beautiful island where you can jump off cliffs into the water, and it is famous for that now, right? So,
yeah.
Okay, so how did we choose what we chose, right? Let's just quickly cover that. So we wanted 3-4 different kinds of trips in the same trip. Because we generally, the way Indians do a Euro trip, and I'm saying it with a lot of humility because I also done that. You go to 3-4 countries and सब कुछ देख के आना है. Like this is how we do it. We always done, right? We wanted to do only Italy, and we ourselves took a lot of time to digest it. कि हम 14 दिन एक country में spend करेंगे, right? So we want to do a little bit of all type of things. So we chose Rome for the history, right? Also, you would look stupid if you go to Rome, Italy, and not go to Rome. That's why we went to Rome. Milan was only an outside flying back hub for us. So we went south to north, right? We entered from Rome and we went out from Milan, right? So in between, we chose Venice, we chose Florence. Florence is right at the center, right? So somewhere in that north to south to north journey. Venice, and from Venice we went to Cinque Terre. One beautiful destination which I forgot to mention is Lake Como. Again, very, very nice. It's close to Milan. You can do a day trip from Milan, but trust me, you should stay there.
I will come to this in the accommodation part. Lake Como accommodation is hard to score and expensive.
Yes.
That's why hard to score.
Yes.
इसका क्या जुगाड़ है?
So Lake Como, Rome and Lake Como are the only 2 places where we did revenue bookings, right? Because again, like Lake Como mein, Bellagio is one good place. Yeah. Then there are multiple cities, Marona hai, and all of those small places in Lake Como. So Lake Como is basically a central Lake Como region, and then there are multiple small towns across that lake, right? Around, right? So Bellagio is the most beautiful, which we found the most attractive. So we stayed in Bellagio. But again, the right way to do it is, I don't think you have good hotels there, right? So you may not even find something good on booking.com, right? So there are some small niche accommodation websites that you may want to go and explore. We'll try and leave that link in the show notes. There are a few examples also which we booked. I'll leave that because they're very beautiful. So we booked Bellagio ke upar ek ghat jaisa like mountain pe, you have a small cottage. We booked that. And every day they would have a bus, you take us to the down Como section, Lake Como, and then we would come back, right? So that's what we booked in Lake Como. But you're right, your point is bang on. It's very hard to get points, like even booking.com and agoda.com pe, you will not find great accommodations.
Yeah, cool. That was really good perspective. Ameya, from your point of view, now that you're planning a trip, is that looking different to Dhimans, similar to Dhimans? Curious.
the way we are looking at it is look out for some of the less explored places. So and Sicily is definitely on top of the list for me.
Yeah.
Right? I think.
Why?
So I think a few reasons. First of all, I think it's a different kind of a beauty. It's got again. I think there's one aspect of something that's unexplored. The second thing is the food scene. The food scenes, from whatever I hear, is like super underrated, right? Like I mean, Italy across the country, it is great for food. I mean,
So last couple of episodes, we did 2 food sections of 10 minutes each. And I thought like, I was beaming in that section. This section, I think we should focus on food and get the two of you talking.
I can talk for 1 hour
about
for you.
the food scene.
Absolutely. Italy, we can talk about 30 minutes about food and we won't get tired.
तो अभी शुरू करते हैं हमें आप पहले आप बताओ what kind of food did you enjoy in Italy and then we'll come back to your plan but food के बारे में आपसे सुनते हैं फिर दीमन से सुनते हैं.
So first thing, right? Italy, for someone who's a vegetarian, it's a paradise, right? A lot of countries you go and you're not going to get as many options as vegetarian food. You go to Spain, it's limited. You go to something like a France, you need to survive on bakery items and whatnot. Italy is a foodie's paradise. So let's talk about some of this, right? Like, so you go to like a Naples, man. First of all, I mean, anyway, I think the most obvious one in Naples is like, they've got the great pizzas. You go, they're not going to have too many kinds of pizzas. You go to a shop, he will say margherita or marinara. Pick one and take that. But beautiful, the dough is nice. But then there is like, the different dishes, the gnocchi that they make over there.
Yeah.
Man, baked on top of everything else, the cheese that they use, the tomatoes that they use, just a different level. They have a fried pizza. Man, it rains. The city is basically like Bombay. Naples is like Bombay. Same kind of rain, same kind of traffic. Everything is like very similar, right? And man, when it rains and you go, you have like this deep fried pizza. It's like just so decadent and nice. And then they've got this in Naples. They've got this really beautiful pastry. Let me try to remember. It's called a sfogliatella. It's I don't know if you have had the Indian variant is something like a chirota, which is like multiple layers.
Correct. It's a very Maharashtrian.
I mean, I've seen it in other places. That's what we call that.
Yeah, I've had it. I'm from Belgaum and we love chirota. Yeah.
So, but think of it like a chirota, but stuffed with like ricotta cheese and honey. And
so very close to a milfoil.
Yeah, very close to a milfoil. Yeah, but sort of not. But man, delicious. Like I think food, you just go mad. You go to Naples, you're gonna go mad, and not just Naples. You go up in Rome. Rome has got a bunch of these dishes which are like insane, man. So like for example, the pizza that they make in Rome, it's not going to be like the Naples style pizza. It's gonna have like a crisp crust. They also have this. They have this concept called pizza al taglia, if I remember. So it's essentially they cut pizza into squares. Slices, and then you go to the shop. You say, I want 1 square of this, 1 square of this, 1 square of this, and put that together and eat. And that's awesome. You have this dish. It's a very Roman dish. You will not find it anywhere else in Italy. It's called a supli. The supli is essentially, think of it like a big fried ball, like a croquette of sorts, and it's filled with this tomato rice and cheese. Man, so amazing. You get this cheese pull when you pull it apart.
So it's like fried risotto of sorts.
Yeah, deep fried risotto. Like
it's इसका जो Indian version होगा वो probably होगा like somewhere like a mac and cheese
pakoda.
Mac and cheese pakoda.
Like, we can't think of a carb in this bhajia, no? Like it's almost that, right?
But if you end up going to Rome next time, I don't know if you've tried this. They have this one very specific dish. Again, you'll only get it in Rome. It's called maritozzo con panna. Right?
Okay.
So think of it as like there's this little cream puff kind of puffs, and then they put a big dollop of cream on top of that.
Oh yeah.
The cream is not sweet, but delicious, man. I've gone and I'm like, okay, 5, 6 at a time, just keep
also
eating.
Also the cannolis, right? You have these cannolis which have white cream inside, and then they're shells. So you get them in 2 versions, like you said. One is the ricotta cheese, which is inside the cannoli, and then you get like the vanilla cream of sorts, or you get it like with chocolate, and all of them are. Damn!
Cannolis in Sicily is something that I've heard a lot. Like I've specifically been to Sicilian restaurants when I've like traveled there, and man, the way they make it is like something else.
Why are we not talking about tiramisu?
Tiramisu is nice, but there are better things. Like I think there are, and tiramisu again, I think not everywhere in Italy. So here's the problem with tiramisu, right? You go to a place that's advertising and selling tiramisu, more often than not, it's going to be a tourist trap.
Acha.
But there will be a few places where you'll get it nice, and it's nice. For instance, I'm unable to recollect the name of the place, but there is this one specific place in Rome that has like this pistachio tiramisu, and different level. I think it just kills it. And not just this, all across Italy, you're going to have the gelaterias with different kinds of gelatos and sorbets. My rule would be one flavor one day. Pick a different one, and throughout the trip you just like enjoy. Food scene is like too good. But not just this, right? Like this is like we're talking of explicit food items in a specific place and whatnot. The other thing that one must definitely do is head inside an Italian supermarket. So a few things that I think definitely one should carry back. If you like to cook, you get good quality pasta. A lot of the pasta that we get out here is not so great, right? Like basically you see a pasta that's yellowish in color, consider that it is bad. You get the pastas which are made with respect to better dyes and whatnot, and you can feel the difference when you eat it. There's a few things, right? So for example, you go to a supermarket, pick up, so there is this drink, I think it's called Chio Bar or something like that, and correct and add in notes if required. So it's like this mix, hot chocolate mix. But the hot chocolate is like thick, like you can eat it with a spoon. It's like a chocolate custard, man. Like bring like 100 packets of that, and
it's like a melted ghianduja chocolate, isn't it?
Exactly.
Like
it has a ghianduja flavor. Well, it also has a little bit of a hazelnutty taste, hazelnut chocolate, and maybe a little cornstarch maybe. So, but it's like thick and decadent. It is delicious. You get this thing called pocket coffee. So pocket coffee is like, think, the coffee bite ka bars that we get, right? Similar sized. And it's like this one small toffee kind of a thing, but it is filled with coffee on the inside. So you eat it, it tastes like a chocolate or a toffee, and then you bite into it, and then you get this shot of espresso that comes out. Man, delicious. Like too good.
What about this amatriciana? Have you tried that?
Amatriciana, no. I don't eat meat, so I haven't. But if you want to try a good amatriciana, like from whatever my wife tells me, get it in Rome. Rome has got the good amatriciana. Rome has got good cacio e pepe as well. Right? Cacio e pepe is good in Rome. Carbonara are supposedly good in Rome again, something that I wouldn't eat. But and every region in Italy, again, I think there's so much to eat. But pastas, you should always pick the one that is specific to that. So, for example, if you go to Liguria, which is like near Genoa and near the Riviera, you get a mean pesto there. And, they're like, I think the people are very proud about their culinary tradition with respect to, okay, this is the right way of how it should be done. And I think as an experience, all of these are like just...
There's also something special about olive oil in Italy, right?
Man,
it just takes the flavor profile to another level.
So, now that you talk about olive oil, if you are going into Italy, one place you must hit is, there is this small town called Modena, right? So, Modena is great for two things. Number one is olive oil, and the difference that you have with respect to a fresh olive oil, right? Like, after processing, if you get it within 20 days, 30 days wala olive oil, the flavor profiles that you get over there, it's like a different level altogether. So get a fresh olive oil from there, do your research with respect to saying, so they have a lot of standardizations, right? Saying that, okay, what do you do to ensure that it is single farm origin, you have olive oil of a particular quality, particular level of refinement and whatnot. But also what is important and what is critical with olive oil is how old is it? And the fresher you consume it is tasty. The second thing you must pick from Modena, specifically from Modena, is the balsamic vinegar. So they call it aceto balsamico, and you should only get it from Modena. Don't get it from anywhere else. The flavors are something else. And again, do your research. I believe I think if you want to go for a bigger brand, there's something called a Giusti. I could be wrong. That has great ones, but also some of the smaller shops that you've got over there. If you are going towards Florence, that side of things, make a day trip into Modena just to pick up, those bottles of olive oil and those bottles of balsamic vinegar. Pick them up and you will not regret it in your life.
The way you're talking about Italian food right now, feel like somehow I have to make a reservation at Ottimo and go and burn my green points tonight. So very, very tempted. But I think that's a great section on food. Ameya, back to the original question. You've done your Italy trip. Now you're planning another one. What will you do this time? similar to Dhiman, different than Dhiman? Let's get into that section.
So I think Rome, you can never get enough. I think that is one thing. So I think you do spend some time in Rome. Look at some of and I'm like a huge history buff, right? So I mean, there are things that I'd be able to relate to, do stuff a lot more than that. I definitely want to catch one of the crazy Italian football matches. Like, the Rome derby is on one of my bucket lists. And, those matches get crazy, man. You go to the Olimpico, there's like, again, stories with respect to, people bringing in like knives and, get super angry with each other. I don't want to get into that side. But, there's passion. The stadiums in Italy are mostly not great because they've got these, large stadia and then, they're not always filled and not very close to the crowds. But the passion, the atmosphere for sure. So I think I do want to catch a few games. Sicily as a location is on my bucket list. I definitely want to spend time do that. The East Coast is something that I have not done too much of. So I think to start with, on the south of Italy, you've got places like Bari, which, here's the other thing about Italy, right? Like, so typically, the more south you go, the flavor profiles become a lot closer to the things that you are used to as Indian, right? You get a little more spicy, a little more flavors. The more north you go, the foods are a lot more, delicate in taste. And as nice as they are, it requires a different appreciation. So, so I'm looking forward to places like Bari. I'm also I've never been to Venice for whatever reason. So I think a lot of times it's like, hey, it is too touristy, it smells a lot. But I think as an experience at one point of time, I definitely
Still
want
pretty.
to.
I enjoyed it.
I'm sure.
So, yeah.
And
I'm sorry, I have a very
the
different
photos that you
opinion.
showed me with respect to your hotel.
I mean, that I agree, but I have a very different opinion to Amaya on, some of the things that he mentioned. Food, I think, great. We spoke about a lot of good food. I think I have another set of list of things that we can speak about at detail. But Venice, I have a different opinion. I feel that, again, let's put it this way. I don't think as an individual you can complete Italy in one trip. It's impossible. Let's be clear about this. I have made up my mind. I'm going to twice in my life at least to Italy minimum, right? So we had to split it out. But if somebody is going for the first time, find your mojo of why you're going that, right? मतलब क्यों कर रहे हो वो trip वो decide कर लो पहले, right? So if you really want to see, the beauty is that you can design that itinerary. You're going on a history trip, for all means. Go to Rome, go to Florence, do everything you want. But if you're going for a relaxing trip, right, and you want to chill out and not do a lot of that, Italy is enough options, right? Venice, I specifically did not like Venice. Like, let me be as blunt as I can be. As a bucket list tick mark, absolutely yes. Please do it. Don't expect great things. Accor ka stay actually made the place worth, honestly. Right? Had I not stayed there, it would have been a very bad memory for us. On the day we were there, it also rained. And the day it rained, we saw the canals overflooding. It was so bad. I mean, the situation was very bad. But yeah, if you want to know about how a city can be built on a water system, I mean, that's something very unique. I think that is something I liked.
No, but you get a lot of these unique experiences. Like, so for example, so we were in Amalfi for some time.
Yeah.
And in Amalfi, I managed to score this accommodation. So it was like this, 900,000-year-old monastery. Right?
Yeah,
An old monastery that they had converted into a hotel. And it was like right next to this, really old tower, like an outpost of sorts that, the people over there at that point of time, there are stories of, the Arabs invading and there were like battles fought over there and whatnot. So, that kind of an edge. Or for example, in Rome, one of the nights I've stayed in has been in one of these, like these really old, like 1500-year-old towers that they were still preserved and converted into a hotel. You go into Tuscany, and in a number of places you are able to rent like, an entire old castle. Right? You've got like a family or something, man. And they are not that expensive, by the way. You think that, and again, castle as in we also have a different perception of castle. It's going to be a smaller building, but it's real history, and as someone who comes from India, we do appreciate that. Right? You've got like 1500-year-old, 2000-year-old things. Like it's awesome. I think those kind of experiences are like super unique.
Dhiman, you touched a very important topic with accommodation. You said your stay in Venice at Accor made it special. So with that, let's jump to our next section, which is solving for accommodation. The way I see it, largely there are two currencies that we can use from an India points and miles ecosystem. One is the Marriott currency, the other is the Accor currency. Now, obviously from a value-wise, Hyatt is much more easy to kind of redeem, but scoring Hyatt points is hard in India.
Correct.
So what's your play for Italy going forward, and what would be your recommendation? And I know there might be separate or specific recommendation for specific places. Let's get into the details.
ठीक है, awesome. I think, like I said, this was one of the trip where we didn't want to start by optimizing for miles or points, right? So, in Rome, for example, there are two good Accor properties, right? One is the Mercure Colosseum. I think that's a very expensive property. There is a normal Mercure as well. I think that's slightly not well rated. So we were a little apprehensive of booking Accor in Rome. We ended up kind of booking a property for some 50,000, 4 nights, 56,000, right? And didn't turn out to be great, honestly, right? So in hindsight, I would recommend, if you have Accor points, book the Mercure Colosseum. I would have rather paid 25,000 more in points than not pay in points and stay at a shitty place, right? So because there is a standard, see, my biggest fear in Rome was, what if the standard is too poor, right? And that's where I think Accor helps, right? There is a basic standard, उससे बुरा नहीं हो सकता, मतलब that average के ऊपर ही होगा वो, right? So and that is why I would strongly recommend do the Accor का Mercure Colosseum in Rome. It's slightly expensive, we're just stating it upfront, right? Moving to Florence. Florence ka Accor property is superb. Okay, and I'll tell you why it is superb. It's right next to the station, walking distance from the Florence station. Florence is such a beautiful, nice, small city that you can straight away walk to the Duomo from there. It takes like 5 minutes, and in that beautiful weather, the weather you're going in, I mean, you won't even understand, right? So it's right in the heart of Florence, right? The places where in the market you get beautiful, nice paninis, all of them are all walking distance, right? The Uffizi Gallery, all of those are like absolute walking distances, right? So that would be my recommendation, Florence. Do the Mercure Florence, right? That's on the Mercure Florence. The breakfast is good. It's something that you should take. The staff is really good, and the rooms are big but no great views, right? So that's what we did in Florence. In Cinque Terre, there's absolutely no Accor property. Airbnb came to the rescue. So the right way to think about Cinque Terre is go to Airbnb and book any property which is in front of sea and mountain facing in any of the 5 towns. It doesn't matter. We stayed at Rio Magare. So the more beautiful the view, just settle for it, right? Again, don't expect great service, all of that, right? Because you're essentially going to stay 1 night or 2 nights max.
So I want to interject here for just 1 minute. If you're doing Airbnb, book through the British Airways affiliate link. Let's add the link to the show notes.
Perfect.
But every time you stay in an Airbnb, passive way of racking up a little more points.
Got it.
But to your point in Florence, right? I think one thing you can do in Florence, like I'm sure the hotel is great, but in case you want that little different experience, there's a lot of these places in which, you have old palaces that get converted into hotels and residences. So during one of my stays in Florence, there is this, Renaissance time Italian family called the Medici family. And we literally stayed in like a palace that was owned by the Medicis at that point of time. And palace isn't fine. It was a room within the palace. But I mean, as an experience, if that is something different that you want to try out, that's definitely an option.
I think it's a great experience. I think the way we thought about it was that because we wanted to do a lot of offbeat experiences, we wanted to ensure that the money is spent there. So we didn't spend too much on accommodation. We just went with points. But at least that was one place where it was no-brainer for me. But I agree. I mean, if you get more opportunities like this, I mean, definitely
I was able to
give it a
score
shot.
this with Smart Buy points, by the way. So yeah, I mean,
or 10x Smart Buy if you can, or whatever.
yeah, to earn 10x or you burn
Whichever,
with,
yeah.
And that time we didn't have the
Correct,
70%
correct.
restrictions anyway.
So Cinque Terre would be fully Airbnb or let's say some random hotel. But again, don't worry about it too much. It's a 1 night, 2 night stay. Go for a beautiful view. Don't stay without a view. Like that's what my recommendation would be. Going to Venice, I think the M Gallery Accor, mind-blowing, beautiful property. 2 things that stand out for the property. If you get upgraded, you will get a canal view. Right? We got a canal view by default, right? And beautiful view, right? So it's right next to the canal. They don't advertise it for whatever reason. I don't know why. Just outside the hotel, you also have those small gondola kind of boat standing, transporting you from one place to another. So it feels very like आप जाते ही vibe में आ जाते हो. Like you are in Italy anyways. You're in the vibe most of the time, right? Because of food, because of experiences. But वहाँ पे right next to the hotel, you cross a bridge. Okay, it's like a very small bridge. You cross the bridge and there is a beautiful place where you get €1 wine. okay? Throughout the day, you get €1 wine, right? So, हम जाते आते जब भी बाहर निकले, we had that €1 wine, right? So it's a beautiful place. Right there next to your in the canals there are ducks, and you walk out, and then and it's centrally located, right? So it's right very close to the central Venice where you want to go. That's in Venice, right? Coming to Milan, we scored an ibis because we wanted to just stay the night because we had a flight out of Milan. And honestly, Milan we didn't find too many good properties as well. There was a Mercure, but we said, okay, ibis is fine enough, right? So we took an ibis. But again, if you are staying in Milan for long, I would recommend see other hotels. We just stayed there. We put our bags. We went to see the famous places, the center square and all that, and the shopping and all that. So we just went and we came back.
Milan, I think one thing is proximity to your metro station is the one important thing to look at.
Agreed.
Beyond that, I think
Agreed.
there's enough to do outside. You can go to San Siro, you can go to the
I
cathedral.
mean, if you're going to a European city for the first time and you haven't seen a proper city, then spend some time in Milan, because it is a Zurich kind of a place, right? I mean, it's a modern city. It's
a
not
very rich city. A lot of Italy is maybe not, yes, it's touristy, but it's not as rich. Milan is rich. You can just see that there's a difference.
But if you've been to other European cities, I would skip Milan largely from my itinerary.
Yeah, I mean, Milan, it depends on what your interests are. Like, for example, last time when I was there, I had this full experience tour of the San Siro. And if you're a fan, that's not something you'll miss. Before they tear down the stadium, please go there.
Absolutely. That was, I think, Milan. I think the last one was Lake Como. We already spoke about the Lake Como accommodation before, side.
So, great recommendations, Dhimant. But Amya, now as you look at building your itinerary, what if one doesn't have points? What would be how would you think about it then? If you don't have points and you don't have to look at the Accor ecosystem or the Marriott ecosystem, what do you potentially look at? How do you optimize? What would you ideally do?
So I think the way I'd look at it is that don't go heavy with respect to points on this. Instead, use it as an opportunity to earn points.
Yeah.
Right? So you can do things like Smart Buy, definitely. The 10x on points that you, on hotels that you get on Smart Buy is great. Something like an Atlas can also work out well. Book revenue, it's okay, I think. So I'd say...
revenue, would you recommend Travel Edge for Burgundy?
I'm not very sure how good the variety is with respect to the Access portal. I can certainly tell you that at least what you get on Smart Buy, there are good options. And I mean, again, Italy gives you the opportunity to try out these, very nice experiences. So where I'd come to is that you might get the standard chain hotels, yes. But if you are able to potentially, search a little more and hit that nice experience, some more often than not, I think that can be worth it. Like, you go to a different place, it's like, okay, it's not so much with respect to your stay. Here, you actually have real historical places. Make use of that.
Understood. Back to food. Dhimant, what's your take on food? Let's get into specifics. Give us specific places. Italy में, Rome में, किधर जाने का, क्या खाने का, right? Specific destination, specific joints, specific food. What were highlights of your trip?
Perfect. I think a lot of people who watch our podcast regularly know Adil's food side of, and probably don't know mine. I'm a complete foodie as well, but not in the sky, off the sky, right? So my experiences are mostly on the ground. So okay, let's talk about Italy, right? So it's one of the closest destination for food in my heart, right? Even Japan is a good destination for food, but because I'm a vegetarian, we didn't have such a great experience as what a lot of non-vegetarian would have. But Italy, Amaya also covered, is a great destination for even vegetarians, right? So let's start with coffee, one of my favorite topics, right? And I think nobody talks about quality of beans there, right? I mean, you just go, everybody has an espresso machine, just go order a coffee and you're done, right? So let's start with coffee. I think there are some, every place you go is going to have their unique coffee joints, right? So we found some really, really nice coffee joints in Florence, Rome, even the good gelato places would typically have good coffee, right? So one coffee that you all have to try. See, we are a cappuccino nation, right? From a Italian coffee perspective, we already drink a little bit of Americano now. But two coffees I would strongly recommend try is the affogato in Italy, which is like the real deal. So there's a place called Vivoli, right? So
so affogato वही होता है. Break it down for our users.
Sure.
Affogato is hot coffee ice cream mixed together.
Perfect. Yeah. So if you guys, there's a place called Vivoli. What they would do is they would take a standard coffee cup. They would have a standard scooper of vanilla ice cream. They would put it in a star design. They would first spend 30 seconds like an artist designing your ice cream in a particular shape, and then they would put it under the espresso machine and hot coffee flows in. And it's all over the reels. I mean, sometime back it started coming all over the reels, right? So Wine Windows is another place in Florence, which, so this place is right inside a wine window. So there's a wine window which is not working anymore, but you walk inside, there is Vivoli. They have great gelato, but they have great affogato, right? So there's one definite spot you should try. It's in Florence. Definitely try this out. Obviously, you will find a lot of tourists trying to click videos, etc. But before you do that, please enjoy the affogato, right? Strongly recommend it. Moving away from coffee, one recommendation with Amaya gave, definitely get the pocket coffee. It's from a company called Ferrero, who makes Ferrero Rocher. They're an Italian company, old Italian brothers who started this company. We only know Ferrero Rocher mostly from that company.
Out here, yeah.
Yeah, but that pocket coffee it almost like when you bite, a full shot of espresso, one full shot of espresso comes out of that bite. Okay, so definitely must try. One caution thing there, right? People have cappuccino just before 12 o'clock. After 12 o'clock, they're not keen to serve you cappuccino. But the coffee is very good. Nobody talks about the beans and all, but it's really good coffee. Another coffee you should try there is macchiato, because it's very popular there. What they would do is they would take a standard shot of espresso and they would put a little bit of milk foam, right? But they would do it in the perfect proportion, right? And it hits you. And that is the only place in Italy where you'll also enjoy espresso, because the coffee is so well made. I mean, those guys know the exact way of grinding the right size, having the right machines, having the right beans. You'll get a perfect espresso, right? If you have espresso in India, it's typically very bitter and you can't take that. And they will serve it in their brilliant style. They will get a small dish. They'll put a glass of water. They'll put the espresso. You are supposed to first take in the water, clean your mouth for the taste of the espresso to sink in. Then you first take one sip, right? You then move the coffee because the flavor mixes it. The thick coffee is down, the water is the top. You mix it and then you again sniff the coffee and then have it, right? So this is largely about coffee. One thing which I think Amaya again spoke about is gelato, right? So the gelato is great. Like, try the gelato anywhere, right? So that's gelato. They have this very unique flavors. You will see a lot of people having these tall mountains of gelato everywhere, right? But don't go for the real deal. And how do you know real deal is? Simple ice creams, simple flavors are the best, right? And one flavor which particularly stands out is pistachio.
Pistachio is the
I was
all-time
about to
classic.
say,
Mind
hands
blowing.
down, the best gelato is pistachio.
Exactly. And again, like, the closest I have come in India to eating Italian gelato is somewhere in Milano, in Bangalore. But I haven't had that.
Milano is very good in Bangalore. उसके एक लेवल ऊपर आपको दुबई आना पड़ेगा.
Correct.
Emirates के lounge में incredible pistachio gelato. और फिर उसके बाद तो obviously Italy है. But Milano in Bangalore is very, very close to the real deal.
Agreed.
So there used to be this outlet. They had one in Indiranagar a while back. It's a Pondicherry outlet. It's called GMT. I don't know if you've ever.
Yeah, I've heard of it. Yeah.
But GMT's gelato used to be like, I think, pretty much on par. They shut
Another
down, unfortunately.
gelato in Bangalore I really like is the one from Chennai. It's called Amadora.
Amadora.
Yeah, so Amadora is now on Brigade Road, and they're good too. They have a very good underbaked cake, which is like cookie dough, which is underbaked, and then they serve with ice cream. Oh man, super good. But let's focus on you. Yeah.
The flavors mein pistachio stood out for me. The other flavor that stood out for me for lemon flavor, like
Yes,
it's a very unique
the limoncello.
flavor. Limoncello is the drink which has got alcohol, but the lemon
उसका
flavor.
sorbet flavor आता है.
Exactly. But they actually put alcohol in that. So a lot of places. I'm not sure if you tried it, but they do. So that was another flavor, right? And if you, they call it Sicilian lemon sorbet, right? So very good flavor. Try it out. Skip the normal flavors. I would say, and again, don't go with very complicated flavors like Ferrero Rocher flavor and all that.
Sir,
like,
एक केलो आता है.
हाँ, Quello.
बहुत जबरदस्त है. That's like
I'll tell you one more, which
milk
is
chocolate and caramel mixed.
Yeah, nice.
Amazing, yeah.
There is cherry flavor. The cherry flavor gelatos are like, man, different. Cherry, almond is the other one. And you'd think, boss, why will an almond ice cream taste like? it is awesome.
Yeah.
Like I'm not a big fan of the sorbets per se, but the gelatos, man, I think it's awesome.
I think if you have to just eat one flavor in Italy, just eat the pistachio. We ended up repeating the same flavor every day. So what you do is, okay, 2 दिन में तीसरी दिन we'll probably take another flavor, but 2 days we would eat, and we hogged on gelato, right? So it's crazy, right? So that's gelato for you. We found, by the way, some salted gelatos as well.
Salted caramel.
Salted
That's
caramel
really
was
good.
another, but in general, salted flavors also. I can't remember the names right now, but I leave them. Amazing stuff. Moving to pastas, I think.
So, just, Dhiman, I have 2 more things to add from a gelato point of view. One is, if you're traveling with kids, and most Indian kids enjoy Nutella. Nutella is also a Ferrero product. They have incredible Nutella gelatos. And for those of you who don't want a lot of sugar, but you want to go a little easy on sugar, but you still want to enjoy the chocolate, but yet you want to enjoy the vanilla of Italy, Stracciatella is like another fantastic flavor for you to dive into.
Correct.
Both of these are like incredible flavors.
But I want to leave one thing here. Italian food is exceptionally different because it also prohibits them from using certain a type of ingredients in there by law. So if you look at their Fanta, for example, it's very different from
the color is
exactly.
different, right? Yeah.
So there's a particular ratio that they allowed. Similarly, the Nutella is not the same American Nutella that you get.
We get the
jar.
palm oil one over
Exactly.
here, right?
You don't get it there. That's why I feel it will get more clear when we talk about a little bit about pastas, for example, right? We hogged on pastas, croissants, gelatos. This is all the thing we don't eat in India. Just before we start on pastas, let me tell you, I did not gain a single gram of weight after coming 14 days from Italy and hogging every day. Without any exercise, just walked. We didn't gain a single. And I genuinely believe that all the ingredients were so fresh, it genuinely led to good quality food, right? So pastas was one of them. Generally, pasta leads to massive weight gain, right? And pastas are amazing. So I'll give you my top 5 pastas. One is cacio de pepe. Mind blowing. I mean, you hear it out. Kya hai? It's spaghetti or some pasta. It's pepper and it's cheese. That's it. Nothing else. And if you look at somebody making it, the sauce is made only of cheese. There's nothing else. There is no maida, no milk, nothing, right? And I'll tell you, the cheese, you're speaking about the cheese, right? They use a specific cheese called pecorino, which is a goat cheese, and it's not the parmesan that we pay.
Pecorino will be sheep.
A sheep, sorry.
Yes.
And they actually don't use the classic parmesan cheese that we use, right? That actually stood out. The other was obviously classic pesto pasta. The pesto sauce freshly
specifically
made.
go to like a Genoa if you're going like northwest of Italy. The pesto over there is like
I mean,
just hits
see,
different.
the thing is that you may not be able to cover all the cities, but even if you eat it in Florence, you're still going to have a massively good experience.
Yeah.
Third is carbonara. Now, my problem is whenever I went to
Carbonara is pork, right? Normally.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So my problem was every time I went to an Italian diner or food place and I would tell them make a carbonara without it, they would like look at me as if I'm a criminal, right? But
इसमें एक बहुत ट्रेंडिंग इंस्टाग्राम रील है where there's somebody who talks about not using pork in a carbonara, and then the chef looks at her and says, if my grandmother had wheels, she would have been a bike. So it's very that's the way Italians think and talk, right?
But that's true for everything. You ask them for a coffee at 2 p.m. cappuccino, they will be angry. You ask them for ketchup with obviously pizza, they're going to be pissed.
That
right?
one is justified.
Japan. You ask them for pineapple on pizza, they'll be pissed, right? So that
Pineapple with pizza is a very Gujo thing.
Yeah,
it's a very Indian
exactly
thing.
American thing also maybe. But again, coming to the pastas, right? So the reason I wanted to try it because it's got an egg in the sauce of it, right? So I made him make it. So he did make it for me. So we ended up having it. Limon pasta.
Oh yeah.
If I have eaten one thing as bizarre as a lemon pasta.
Describe it. What is it?
It's delicious.
It's basically boiled pasta, which is taken out al dente. You put fresh lemon squeezed on that.
Okay.
You put pecorino cheese. That's it. And you shake it vigorously. That's it.
So you go a little off Naples, like near the Amalfi Coast. That's where you'll get the best of this lemon pasta, and you can pick it up and make it yourself as well. It's a very different flavor profile.
It's insane. And the last pasta I think which I genuinely enjoyed was, please do not ask for Alfredo there. Please do not ask for Arrabbiata there. These guys hardly understand it. pesto is the closest intersection between what we eat here and they eat there, right? So the last one is basically just what is that pasta? The plain pasta that they have without any sauce. There is some word.
Aglio.
Aglio,
In
right?
Naples,
So
you'll
that's
get
the
that.
last one. I mean, you use that, and this 5 are like I could end up eating this every day of my trip. That's pasta. The last part I want to cover is pizza because he spoke about it also. Roman pizza and Naples pizza is extremely different. Roman pizzas are basically a large, big pizza cut into squares, and then there is a Naples pizza where you have a big flat bread, round in shape, very soft, and you would have either a marinara sauce on top or you have a margarita sauce on top,
The
and
sauce is it's like essentially cheese and no cheese. Marinara.
exactly. Marinara is no cheese, and margarita is cheese
Margarita is
plus-
3 ingredients, whatever. Like cheese, a specific cheese, the red sauce, and the basil. And
Correct,
that's all.
but if you remember right, the even in the specific meats that they would use in the
Oh, yeah.
pastas and everything, there's a set recipe. They don't like to change it too much.
So if you go to a Naples margarita, they will say it has to be a cow cheese that comes from
exactly.
cows which eat grass on the slopes of the Vesuvius, and that's all that we will take. And tomatoes have to be grown here. It has to be a San Marzano variety and whatnot. So they take it a little seriously. I mean, I don't complain because the food is delicious, but they have again these culinary traditions that they want to stick to.
The other thing I really enjoy about Italy and the food scene there is every restaurant table will have this bottle of Parmesan cheese in it.
Yeah.
And there are these shaved cheese grains or whatever you call it. Before having anything, you just dust that on top of it. Just elevates the flavor profile.
And even they would keep the balsamic vinegar and the olive oil also. So you can put as much as they want. It doesn't matter to them, right? India, mein to if you ask them to give olive oil, they would go crazy, right? So one recommendation I also have is definitely get balsamic vinegar from there. I mean, their balsamic vinegar is out of the world. Like when we try salads with balsamic vinegar here, it's like very meh. Like I mean, if you try that original one, it's just this enhances the flavor like anything.
Cool. That calls it a wrap on the food part of this episode. Now let's get into experiences. Now, Dhiman, let's talk about like specific and unique experiences you've had in Italy. What I'm trying to understand here is like Tuscany tours. I'm trying to understand road trips, private wine tours. Talk a lot about that and talk about whether these can be done on cards, whether these can be done only on revenue. How did you do it? Let's get into this.
Sure. I think let's start with Florence. I think Florence was a great base. So what we did was we stayed in Florence. We just stayed there for let's say 5 nights, if I'm not mistaken, 4 nights or 5 nights. And one day we took just exploring Florence, right? So keep one day for exploring Florence and, seeing the Duomo and everything. Like it's a very beautiful place, eat a lot of gelato, etc. The second day, I think, which is where I think I had this unique opportunity to take a rental car from a town called Siena, right? So what you do is you take a train from Florence to Siena, right? Once you reach Siena, you take a rental car from there and you drive up the Tuscany hills, right? So if you guys know about a famous gladiator scene, where Russell Crowe actually stands at the top at the end of the movie and he's seeing those rolling Tuscany hills, I had this aspiration or bucket list of going right up there. So what we decided was that we're not going to have any end in place. We'll just take the car and we'll drive up, right? So coming to how we did the car rental first, let me quickly talk about it, right? So one option I found out was Europe car, and I could get the Accorca status, which gave me an extra 20% off. Also, the remaining 80% that you pay, you get Accor all on that, right? And the ratio is pretty good. If I'm not mistaken, for every €1, you get 3 Accor points. In our parlance, it would be 5.4 rupees value for 1 rupee, right? So imagine you pehle so 100 rupees pay, you're getting 20 rupees discount, and then remaining 80 rupees pay, you're getting 5.3% back.
That's another
Phenomenal, right?
5% back, right?
Exactly. So that was brilliant. And one very caution I would put here is that book the car in advance, because the 20% off that you get on the rate is actually very lucrative if you book 3 months in advance.
Got it.
So the 10,000 rupee car you will get 20% off, but otherwise you will have to pay say 18,000 if you go there and take it, right? You will get upgrade on mostly on. So I had this unique thing of trying the Fiat 500. It's very unique in Italy, right? The small Fiat 500, and I wanted to take the older one, but I couldn't get it. Even the newer one, my family didn't like the comfort of that car, so we ended up getting an SUV. But if you really want to try the authentic stuff, get a Fiat 500 on rent. It's beautiful, right? So. What we did is we took that car, we started at 10 o'clock in the morning and we went up the Tuscany hills. We kept driving. We did not do anything. I mean, can you believe that we didn't do anything? We just kept driving through the hills, through the small towns that come in between. We stopped at one place, had cacio pepe. We had a croissant like we did everywhere. And we had a coffee. And the moment the sunset happened, we clicked those photos very similar to what we wanted to click with the Russell Crowe wala scene, and we as close as we could get. And then we started driving down back, right? By the way, driving a car in Italy is not easy, right? So it's very, very difficult, but it's an ulta drive, right? That's a left-hand drive. But again, we took the risk and I'm glad I did, right? So it's beautiful. We also had to fill petrol. वहाँ पे भी I use reserve, like, and I got points. I don't know how.
15% back.
I don't know how, but fuel gave points at that point of time. So just to make it a little more.
It's an international spend, so it doesn't matter.
Yeah, exactly. But like, did you take a car? Like, what are the options of taking a car? I took Europe car. Like,
I
it was
mostly took trains itself, but I think there are some, for instance, like I was not comfortable with respect to driving, especially I think the route we wanted to drive was the Amalfi one. So it's like, very hilly, ghati and thin roads. So what we instead ended up doing, and this is another option that you can do, is you can get one of the transfer kind of websites. So Get Transfer is the one that we used. And then we told the guy, so like Naples to Amalfi, like, okay, boss, take the windy sea-facing roads. And so you are not in any tension that, okay, am I driving? You have got to drive very carefully there. We got to enjoy the entire road trip
but
over there.
Amalfi is not a car place, as I feel. I feel it's more a scooter place.
No, scooter also, but I mean, it's like a sea on one side, hill on the other side.
Exactly.
It's like beautiful.
Yeah.
मेरे हिसाब से दोनों करो यार. एक दिन कार लो, एक दिन स्कूटर लो.
So I wanted to go by
Because
road.
Italy गए स्कूटर नहीं चलाए.
I'm not saying that. I'm saying तुम टस्कनी में गाड़ी लो and अमाल्फी कोस्ट पे बाइक लो is what I was trying to say, right?
कब से दोनों रेड कलर की स्कूटर लो यार, वो मतलब और येलो कलर वाली, वो फील आती है इसमें. Exactly.
Vespa, yeah. And so by the way, the places that we went, there were wineries there also. But that day we didn't do winery because I was driving, right? The next day we did a wine tour. Now here is the point, right? I mean, this is the most exciting double dip that I ever done in my life. I went to Travel Edge. I saw वहाँ पे थे experiences. But there are so many wine tours. It is impossible to shortlist a wine tour. I spoke to 10 people who went to Italy and asked them. Nobody knew a shit about how. So it's extremely difficult you sitting in India to figure out which wine tour is good, right? So I'll leave the name of my wine tour operator for sure. But one way of doing it is do a private wine tour. Let me tell you this. Do a private wine tour. Don't do a wine tour in which there is a bus. They're going to take 30 people to a winery. It'll be the same what you do in India, in Nasik, right? I mean, it's not going to be any different. If you really want to authentically taste the Tuscany wines, try this out. They will get a van. They will get you sit in the van. They will take you to at least 2 wineries. And they both will be different. So we were taken to one winery, which, by the way, if people don't know this, Italian wine, they are not the specialty is not white wine. The specialty is red wine. They have only 1 or 2 white wines. That is one sign of authenticity of the place that you've gone, right? So they will serve you all the levels of wine. And then there is one white wine they will serve saying, okay, this is not our specialty, but try it out. Once you are done there, they will take you to another kind of place which is run by a single person, not like a big winery. A guy who is running his own winery, and then they will make you sit, give you some nice small crackers, and they will give you his locally produced wine. And that is the day when, I actually got so excited by the Italian culture. So we were talking to the person who owns that, right? So he had a dog, he used to run his own winery, and I went to see his winery, right? So I asked him, okay, so what do you do here? Like, okay, wine grows the grapes grow in a certain season, but you live here, what do you do? He said, I do nothing. This is what I do. So, and he was telling me there's a concept called dolce far niente in Italy, which is saying the art of doing nothing. It's an art, right? You spend your time eating doing whatever little work you have, and you do nothing after that.
इंडिया में भी एक कहावत है, आई थिंक पिक्चर में आपने कहीं सुनी होगी, इट्स मोर लाइक जो कुछ नहीं करते हैं वो कमाल करते हैं.
No, so this is
similar concept, right?
Yeah. But it's like the Japanese talk about kaizen and ikigai and all that, and Italians talk about dolce far niente, and it's been my WhatsApp status for the largest of periods. Like I genuinely have started liking that thought of saying, okay, Italians have their own way of doing things. And that is a wine tour that I would strongly recommend, right? So, and one interesting fact is we went to see the Leaning Tower of Pisa after both the wine tours, and everything was anyways leaning. So,
आपको कितने towers दिख रहे हैं?
but again, I'll be very honest, right? The most underwhelming things in Italy were the things which we were most excited about. Leaning Tower of Pisa was one of them.
Well, the tower is nice, but in and around everything else is like. Yeah.
I feel that if you have to really take these experiences of the wine tours, the Tuscany hills, go for that. The Sicilian food experience. Now my next thing is going to Amalfi Coast, the Capri area, the Sicily, the jumping from those small mountains into water in Sicily. I mean, I'm looking forward to that, right? I feel those experiences are something which are unmatched. You will not get in any other country. Like that's what I feel.
Right. Ameya, what are a couple of bucket list experiences for you that you still have that you want to accomplish in Italy?
So I want to do a nice Venice tour, I think for sure. I think that is one. I talked about it earlier. I want to watch a football game at the Olimpico, a football game preferably the derby at San Siro. So I think these are hopefully before they demolish it.
Have you seen the La Liga?
I've seen a few La Liga. I've seen a La Liga at New Camp once. Barcelona.
It can't get
Sevilla.
better than that, man.
Man,
It can't better than that.
2 goals by Messi, Suarez overhead kick, insane match. But yeah, so I think these are some of these, statement matches that I do definitely want to go to. Oh, the other thing that the Italians are crazy about after food is their football. Those guys just go crazy. You talk to anyone, you don't know their language, but you can still communicate and have like a half an hour conversation with people about this thing. So like I told you about the get transfer thing, right? The thing that I used to, drive down to Amalfi. I was talking to the guy about, the local team, and he can't speak very great English. I can't speak Italian, but you could get by and you can talk about it. Oh, this is good. Oh, this is shit. Oh, this coach is doing nicely. So, those people are crazy. Largely that, yeah, bucket list, that's where I would put it at. And also I think, yeah, small, unique experiences. I want to have a lot more of a calm, spaced out trip, not go to too many places, run around too much, relax, have a nice trip.
Just one suggestion I have here for the people is that if you're planning for Italy, experiences like Colosseum, for example, if you're planning to do, it's extremely hard to get tickets, even in shoulder season. It is like those Coldplay ticket release. It happens and it just disappears in 1 minute. So either use a specific websites like Get a Guide is very popular in Italy, but then you have to pay through the roof because an $18 or €18 experience on the Colosseum website costs like 50 euros on the Get a Guide website. So if you're on a budget trip, try booking directly from every attraction has their own website, right? So Colosseum has their own website. It's a little daunting. Make an Excel sheet. Same is the case with train bookings. It's extremely daunting. There are multiple trains to the same location. बहुत planning चाहिए होता है. One way of doing it is go there and do it, but everything is going to be expensive. So if you're on a budget trip, थोड़ा सा planning चाहिए होगा इस trip के लिए.
Trains are that way a fantastic way to get around, though. I'll say more than more than taking flights within Italy, trains are fantastic. And
absolutely.
I find that trains even better than, the Japanese bullet trains and stuff. Like they're faster. They're a little more modern in that sense. Like bullet train is iconic in its own way, but I personally found the Frecciarossa trains to be one level above.
By the way, because we are talking about experiences, I want to cover quick few experiences. I'll not go into detailing like I did for others. In Cinque Terre, you need to watch the sunset at one of the places, one of the terrace, yeah. So definitely do that, right? So drink a spritz. By the way, we didn't cover spritz.
Oh, Aperol spritz.
Also, wet your feet, man. When you take, go inside the waters, have a good time. It's such a beautiful beach. Sometimes it can be rocky. It's okay, but go wet your feet. Have a good time. I mean,
no, but I want to call out the spritz. Different spritz, definitely.
Aperol spritz.
Aperol, the orange ones that they make are delicious too. Some of the lemon-based spirits are delicious too.
Yeah.
It's essentially a liquor with a little bit of soda.
Limoncello spirits and Aperol spirits are the most popular, and they were the best. I mean, in winters you may not get a lot of spirits there, but in summers, though, it is mind blowing. Also, I think the limoncello in itself,
Limoncello is very
pistachio
nice.
liquor is superb. You will also get coffee liquor at a lot of places. Very nice. Definitely have to try.
The almond liquor is delicious.
Almond liquor is delicious. And some of the fruit liquors they have. They have more fruit liquors that you can try. I think.
And they're
very
more
nice.
like a dessert of sorts.
Yeah, it's more of a dessert, correct. Talking of experiences, one more experience that you should definitely do is Lake Como mein. There are this Star Wars के जो fans है, उसके लिए there is this place where there's a very popular place, right? I forgot the name of the palace now. It's even in the James Bond movie. I'll share that link if possible on the show notes, right? It's awesome. Like some of the experiences were just out of the world. So it's basically a kind of a palace or like an old house which is managed by the government now, and they give you tickets and you can go and see that palace, right? So it's very nice.
यार हम लोग ने खाने के बारे में इतनी बात की. There are 3 foodies sitting here. Not one mention of a cheesecake.
Cheesecake. I mean, honestly, I have a very poor view of even tiramisu. Like, I feel that even tiramisu is beaten to death in every other country. So, honestly,
It's delicious, man. I love
it's
it.
delicious, but it is not the top 10 things I would have in Italy. Like, it was not in my top 10 list. I'm just being honest, right? Yeah. Similarly, cheesecake, I didn't find, like, did you find a lot of cheesecake there? I didn't find Italy my cheesecake. Like,
Where is cheesecake tradition?
I thought it was always
supposed to be?
America.
It's not an Italian thing.
No, so there have been old Roman/Greek recipes long ago, but that's a different formulation.
Yeah.
But yeah, it sort of became famous in America. Like your Philadelphia,
Yeah.
where the
Philadelphia
dairy is
cheesecake,
one.
yeah.
All right. All right. Cool. All right. So I think with that, we've covered a lot of ground. Time to bring this to closure. Big thanks, Dhimant and Ameya, for this amazing episode on Italy. Now, for all of you who tuned into this episode was a little different. What we tried to do was we gave you the fundamentals of points and miles when it comes to flights and hotels. What we tried to do is go a little more deeper into the kind of activities, the kind of experiences, specifics of where to go and what to do when you're in Italy. If you enjoyed this episode, do drop us a comment, send us a DM, send us a message. We long and wait for those क्योंकि पता नहीं है good है, bad है, ugly है, sad है, जैसा भी है, अगर आपको पसंद आ रहा है, लाइक बटन दबाओ, सब्सक्राइब करो, एक दो दोस्तों को बोलो यार हमें फॉलो करने के लिए, बिकॉज दैट काइंड ऑफ मोटिवेट्स अस टू ब्रिंग आउट मोर एंड मोर एपिसोड्स. एंड विद दैट, बिग थैंक यू फॉर ट्यूनिंग इन टू द ग्रेट इंडियन पॉइंट्स एंड माइल्स शो. दिस इज अमेया, धीमंत एंड आदिल साइनिंग ऑफ.
Lights flashing bright, we're on the go. Tune in now, there's so much to know. Earning bits, travel dreams we sow, all aboard the great Indian Points and Miles show. 0 to hero in the blink of an eye. Fly first class, no need to be shy. Redemption sweet, touching the sky. Award seats booked, let's give it a try. Award seats booked, let the points flow. It's all aboard the great Indian Points and Miles show. Unlocking journeys wherever you go. The sky's the limit, feel the travel mojo. Hidden treasures in every flight. Nights in places that feel so right. From deserts to the city lights. Get set, steal those dazzling sights. Miles stack up each passing day. Rewards come back in a million ways. In this game you want to play, the great adventure, yay! Award seats booked, let the points flow. It's all aboard the great Indian Points and Miles show. Unlocking journeys wherever you go. The sky's the limit, feel the travel mojo.